Hello. Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good. Thank you for coming on. Welcome to the Mental Health Mixtape. It is the Decades Reloaded community podcast. So we're about getting lots of different people from different communities coming on and talking about all things mental health and everything else in between. So welcome. Just for anyone who's listening who hasn't met you before or come across you online, just tell our Decades Reloaded listeners a little bit about who Jenny is.
Hi. So I'm Jenny. I live in Nottingham and I have a full-time job working for IT security for the NHS, which is interesting. I'll get to that later. And I also run a fitness business, which is based on sort of supporting mental and emotional health in the community rather than the physical side, because I'm not a skinny mini, that's for sure. And I've loved this podcast since it started, and when I was obviously got the opportunity to pop on, I was just like, yep, have me there. I'm here. So yeah, I said for me, mental health has been a massive part of my life. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety when I was 14. I'm now 37. So quite a long time. And at 14 years old, you kind of don't really know what the hell to do with that. You're just like, okay, and that means what? And there was no thought back then at all. So I've had to really learn a lot about, my mental health, about what there is to, what kind of stuff is out there for you to be able to, and, obviously things have grown and things have improved as time's gone on. The stigma has lessened. Thankfully, still not gone, but it's lessened. So yeah, it's made a bit of a difference in that sense. But I still struggle even today. And obviously in 2020, end of 2020, I did have a mental breakdown, which was incredibly difficult. I was hospitalised, and yeah, it was a very hard, difficult time. A lot of time just spent on the sofa, just staring into space, or even if I got out of bed, that was a great day if I actually got out of bed. That went on for about 9 months before I was able to function enough to kind of start to integrate back into society. So that was, but as I said, thankfully I had people who could help keep the business going in my absence, and I'm very, very, to this day, like, I genuinely don't know what I'd do without them. But it's difficult. Mental health it's something that I'm very passionate about because of the fact I do suffer, and I'm not saying people don't suffer. Some people don't suffer, but unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people who go, "Oh, I've got anxiety," and it's like, when you truly have anxiety, you will know about it. You know the difference between just feeling a bit stressed, a bit like, oh, a bit anxious, to having full-on anxiety when sometimes you can't even face getting out of bed, you can't face seeing people, you can't function because the thought of doing that literally pins you to the bed in terror. Like that, to me, that's one of the small ways I can explain anxiety to me. I mean, I get anxiety about everything. I had to go for a scan at the hospital this morning, and I was like, I don't want to go, having nightmares, and it's horrible. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
No.
But it's so important to talk about it, and that's why this podcast means a lot to me, because you are raising that, and Decades Reloaded as well, as a brand, you're raising awareness of that and teaching people how to not deal with, that's not the right word I want to look for, but to support people who do suffer from mental health illnesses. It's not a fun, it's not it's not a trendy thing. It is a debilitating at times illness that unfortunately, if you suffer from it, is not fun to deal with, but it's manageable for the most part, and it's important to raise that awareness. And obviously that's why it means a lot to me to come on here today and talk about my journey and how important it is, and fitness and other things have really helped me, that potentially me talking about today could help others.
Absolutely. That's why I wanted to get you on, Jenny, because when you come forward and said you'd like to come on, obviously I already know, I didn't know all of that, but I do know a bit about your own experiences with anxiety and depression. So I knew that you would be somebody very, very valuable to bring on today. And I know we've had conversations before about anxiety and depression being used as buzzwords a lot, as sort of a trend since 2020. And I've had a couple of other guests on as well who also feel very almost still being stigmatized by the right intentions, but the wording and
The wrong
the
execution.
phrasing. Yes, the wrong execution. Do you know what? I keep hearing that this week. The wrong execution. Probably because I'm useless with words and stringing them into a correct sentence. But that's exactly it. Like sometimes people have the right intentions, but the execution is. Oh, I know why we were having that conversation, because my son keeps telling me that I don't need to wear makeup because I look better without it, because that's what his dad says. And then he'll follow it up with, why have you got so much makeup on, Mum? You look awful. You just shouldn't wear it. You look better without it. And somebody said to me, he's got the right idea, but it's just the wrong execution.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well, is like just something simple like that. When you're struggling with anxiety, you know, to most people, they'll be like, oh, okay, well, that's a bit mean. But to someone else, you'll be like, oh my God, I can't go out the house. I can't face humanity. I can't do anything. No, I'm going to stay home. You know, I can't do that. Like, you know, and that's how debilitating anxiety can be. I mean, at the moment, I'm keeping mine at bay. I'm actually in a very, very good place at the minute, surprisingly. Haven't been for quite a while. I think because I've had a lot going on in my personal life, but I've started to make some decisions that have, it took me a while to get there, but I've made some decisions that have kind of made my anxiety settle a bit. So I'm a bit like, okay, I can cope, I can function, I can deal. But then, as I say, going for a scan, sitting in a waiting room full of people, I'm like, I can feel like everything is on edge, and I feel like my skin's tingling, and I just want to get out of here. I want to get out of here, and it's just something simple like that, and it's horrible. You don't want to be sitting in a waiting room feeling like you just want to run and scream a million miles away. And the same with depression as well. When there's times when you just like, I just want to sit there and just cry. There's nothing to even cry about, but the emotions are so much, there's so much emotion inside me, I can't figure out where to go, so I just cry. And the same with crying is cathartic. It can be, but then it's so exhausting when you're already feeling exhausted that you just want to go nap for like ever and never get back out of bed again. And there are so many times when I feel like that, where it's just facing the world is just, it's just too difficult. And again, I know a lot of people sort of go, oh yeah, well, I can't face life, it's too much. And, you know, and I understand they can be like that, but it's when you actually suffer from the kind of illnesses that we have, it's so debilitating. And they say about the black dog that's sitting on your chest, it literally does feel like that. Your chest feels so heavy, you feel sick, you feel you can't, you know, you can't, it's hard to describe. But you literally just feel like that stepping out of your covers and out of the bed is just way too much. You know, the most I can go to is the bathroom. I'm not going to attempt anything else. There's times when I've had to call in sick to work, and you know, I'm not proud of it, but I have fibbed and said, oh, I've got a headache or I feel sick, when genuinely I can't face people or anything. Even when I work from home, because for those who don't know, my day job is IT security for Nottinghamshire Healthcare Trust, which ironically is a mental health trust, but it's a very stressful job. We're a very small team. We're about 4 people to about 10,500 staff, and we deal with everything security and the compliance side as well. So there is a lot to do. I get probably about a zillion phone calls, Teams messages, emails, you name it, every day. And it's just like, sometimes it's overwhelming. And that's on a good day. So I've gone on a really bad mental health day. Oh, no, I can't cope with it. But
you know what? There's so many things I already just want to ask you about more specifically. But I do, having worked in IT, and I did work in IT in the NHS as well for a really long time. For the bulk of my IT career, it was NHS predominantly, and the cybersecurity teams and the IT operational teams, they get absolutely battered because the teams are between 1 to 2 handfuls of people servicing large NHS trusts, which have now obviously merged as well. So they're even bigger than what they were before. But as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, these teams haven't really grown. In fact, they've probably shrunk to reduce the resources. And that is a lot to take on.
I was like, all the other teams in our IT have grown. just not us. We've got passed over and ignored again.
Yeah.
I mean,
and your job's major. Like you're responsible for the security of everything that somebody types into their computer. So all the patient confidentiality, everything that every clinician puts in, every member of admin staff, every one that's literally clocking in and out of the building, all the passes, everything, unless you don't do the pass bit anymore. Like all of that is on you. And
yeah, it's a lot. And as I said, and also we deal with all the compliance as well. So we have sort of, making sure that all the audits are run. And I mean, I've been working on one project for 8 years and I'm anywhere close to finishing it. To the point that because we're so busy in the day, I have to actually do overtime to try and get this work done. I mean, granted, I'm not going to complain the extra money that it brings in, but trying to get, I'm doing sort of 40 hours a week, plus another 10, 15 hours on top of that with overtime. And then I've got the business and teaching and choreography and everything else. So it's a lot. And my other half is severely dyslexic. So I'm essentially his PA. We always joke about that because if I've annoyed him, I get demoted to a secretary. But
I've got like it did that to
me. Yeah, so it's interesting, but no, I'm having to check his emails, right? And like sometimes write them for him, read out his messages, and also things. A lot of his admin work I'm having to take on as well. So it gets so overwhelming at times with everything that I'm doing that's why I just want to hide in my little bubble and just not ever get out of bed ever again.
That's a lot.
But
I find it really fascinating what you said about, so you work for a mental health trust in the NHS. Yeah. Yet still, when you're having a day where your mental health is affecting your ability to go to work, you still on occasions make work believe that it is a physical illness rather than a mental illness to be taken seriously, because you don't want to tell them it's a mental illness.
And if we change that from odd occasion to all occasions, I've never taken a mental health day, because the problem is, because of the stigma surrounding, I think a lot of it's crazy as well. And the thing is, because if you say mental health day, a lot of people sort of take mental health days, and I'm saying that in inverted commas, because they'll take it because they just don't want to go to work. And so a lot of companies now, including unfortunately my trust, will see that as you're just trying to skive. So I physically feel
mental health trust.
I know, it's crazy.
Oh my
I don't want to speak badly of my trust. They are, and I have the best manager on the planet, genuinely, Stephen Bates. You're never going to hear this, but I'm going to tell you, he is incredible. He's been so supportive of me. And, and I feel that I probably could tell him that it's a mental health day, but then this is a big kicker. I feel guilty about having a mental health day. And I do the same with my classes as well. When I've had to cancel a class, or because I'm just literally can't function, I have to tell them it's something physical, because even though I know my crew will understand, the stigma attached to mental health will tell you feel too guilty to say how you're really feeling, and then it's a mental health issue. You have to then feel like you have to lie. And this is something that's never gone away in all the years that I've had mental health issues, and I hate it. I hate having to lie, but I feel like I can't not, because as I said, it becomes trendy to have a mental health day these days, and it's like, and as I said, unfortunately a lot of people abuse that. If you genuinely did have a mental health issue, but then the other problem being is that even if it wasn't abused and you did take a mental health day, you can, with the NHS, you can only take so many days of sickness, and then they start questioning.
You're only unwell for like 1 week of the whole year.
Yeah, I mean, because it's supposed to be, I think it's like a rolling 6-month thing. You're only supposed to have so many days off in so many times, but you never know. When you wake up in the morning, you don't know how your mental health is going to be. When you suffer with depression and anxiety, you don't know if it's a good day or a bad day, or even a mediocre day. It could be sort of towing a line where you're like, I could probably function. And there has been times when I've woke up in a decent place, then by lunchtime I've crashed and I've had to go, look, I can't do this anymore. And I mean, my boss is quite good for me in the sense of if I have one of those mediocre days and I have started to crash by the afternoon, but I can just about function as long as I don't talk to anyone, he will just go offline on Teams. Just imagine people think you're off sick, it's fine. Just do some emails, do whatever you need to do. Just do something if you feel you're up to it. But if you're not, go, it's fine. And I'm so appreciative of him for doing that, because I think he was completely thrown when I had the breakdown in 2020, because he'd never dealt with mental health to that degree. And I think he was a bit like, oh, right, okay, I didn't know. And no one knew things were that bad, because I just didn't tell anybody, because again, we just don't talk about it. It's stupid, because it's one of the biggest things that we should talk about, but we don't, because the other thing is we don't want to burden anyone else with our issues. And like, if you have a physical illness, people see it, so they go, oh, I'll support you. But when it's invisible illness, which is unfortunately something, it is what it is, because it's not tangible, people can't see it, they go, well, I think it's just in your head, you know. And you can be the most outgoing, fun, high functioning person ever, but everything's broken on the inside. But you just kind of have to like paste a smile on your face and just keep going. You know, you're gritting your teeth, because you try not to cry, you're trying not to scream, you're trying not to, you're trying to function. And it's just so difficult when life is the way it is, because it just, you don't know how to function, you don't know how to be a functioning member of society when you have the illnesses that you do, because you just kind of, how do you function? There isn't a manual for mental health illnesses. There isn't a manual for feeling like this. There isn't, when you break a leg or when you have a flu, there's normally some kind of recovery plan. There's normally a way to get through that. There's normally a way to recover. You will get better. There isn't that option really for mental health. You can maybe put a plaster on things, you can sort of try find ways that can support you, but it will never go away. I mean, if it did, it would have gone by now. I'm 37, I got diagnosed at 14. If it was going to go, it would have gone by now.
It's like, there's a lot of this, put a brave face on it and just carry on and just accept things what they are, and just try and tough it out. Well, that's all well and good, and actually, you can't really do that with your mental health. If you're suffering from a debilitating mental health condition or life affecting, then you can to a degree. So I know for a fact that you and I are masters of painting a face on and getting on, because we're both extremely busy women with a lot going on in our lives, a lot of responsibilities at home and at work, and you can paint a face on it for so long. And I'm going somewhere with this. So I did that very much when Mum died, and because there was this, she always said she always knew you'd be the one strong enough to help everyone else through it and everything else. I had a 11-month-old baby when she died. I had a new job, where I just stepped up my IT career a little bit higher, and there was a lot going on. And so I was like, on the face of it, everyone thought I was absolutely fine. And to a degree, I think I thought I was okay as well. And I was like,
into it almost.
And just, there was no sort of, not really much crying or anything else. And I just put a brave face on, just got on with everything. Every cloud has a silver lining, which I do firmly believe. But then I also found out 12 months down the line that everything just caved in. And that facade or face or whatever you want to call it that I had on for 12 months fell off really fast, really fast. And it caught me up from nowhere. And the reason why I'm going with this is somebody asked me the other day, and you were just talking about it, when I went into that mental health crisis, when I had my breakdown, how long did it take for me to get back to normal? And I couldn't answer it. And this ties into something you said earlier in your introduction. When I went back to this person and said that I knew I was heading towards the breakdown, I knew something was wrong. I could feel it coming. I could feel something was coming. Things were not right. I was very unproductive at work. I didn't answer calls. You were lucky if I even replied to an email. And this was getting worse and worse. I wasn't going to face-to-face meetings because I didn't want to go on the road, especially to do the same route that I was driving when I found out she died. And you feel it. You can feel it coming on, but you don't necessarily acknowledge what it is that's coming on. And then all of a sudden, much like you, I just became an empty vessel. And it's like the lights were on, but nobody was home.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe that. That's exactly how I felt as well. I was having a lot of problems, and things were getting progressively worse. And then that she, because for those who maybe not suffer from anxiety, you may, well, you know, depending, obviously everyone's experience of anxiety is different, but for me, if someone kind of like says something, so for example, I mean, you'll find most people with anxiety don't like surprises because they can't cope with not knowing, being out of control. I hate surprises, but it's also when someone says to you, well,
you get paranoid about making sure you've reacted the right way to the surprise as well.
Yeah, as well. Yeah, because you think, oh, was I supposed to act a certain way? Like, I don't understand, but I'm one thing about with me, and I said it's definitely an anxiety thing, is being out of control. I'm the biggest joke. My other half jokes I'm a control freak, but he doesn't understand why I am the way I am. Because if you're out of control, then your anxiety ramps up because you're kind of going, I'm not in control of that situation. I don't know how it's going to handle. I don't know how to react to it. I don't know how they're going to react to it. And you start to kind of go, and then it escalates, and you just like, okay, and now I'm going to explode or implode, depending as to how it goes. So
sometimes the imploding is worse than the exploding as well.
Oh, definitely. But yeah, and you kind of, yeah. So someone says to you, like, you know, I've got something going on, or something's going to happen with you, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. And then you just pick and just think and think and think and think, and you overthink, and you go, what is it? What have I done? Work was incredibly stressful because obviously of pandemic and everything going on. So it was sort of like, I just felt like I wasn't good enough constantly. And I still do. I have the worst imposter syndrome in my job. I've been in my job for 8 years, and I'm not technical. I will point that out straight away. I'm not technical at all. I work more in the compliance side of our job. So when someone gives me something technical to do, I panic, and I just look at the computer and go, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. No. I quit. Oh my God, I can't do it. And I literally will be in that position for about 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then I'll put something to Stephen, my boss, and I go, I can't do it. And he went, that's fine. Don't worry. We'll sort it. You know, I'll go through it with you. I'll pick it up. And that has been a huge help for me, just knowing that there's someone I can speak to. Because I used to be so scared of and anxious of even just telling someone that I didn't know what I was doing, because I felt like stupid, an imposter, and then my anxiety would kick in, because it just constantly spirals to the point where you just go, why am I even bothering doing this, because I'm rubbish at it. And then, and so you would find most people with anxiety will have some form of imposter syndrome, because they don't think they're good enough, they don't think they can do what they're supposed to do. And I know you and I have spoken about this in regards to our businesses and stuff, and it's like, oh, you know, everyone else is doing great, what am I doing wrong? Oh, it must be me, I'm the problem, I'm, you know. And you constantly can't help but think you're the problem, even if sometimes you're not. It's like when numbers drop in classes, oh well, they don't like me, okay, I've done something wrong, okay, I need to like quit because this is, you know. And it's like, no, it's just summer holidays, people have just gone on holiday, it's not you. And it's really difficult for me to separate those things and kind of come up, because again, the mindset of, you know, I need to be perfect, I need to be the best, I need to be whatever. Because
and you can rationalize, can't you? And then there's this other voice just coming in, just every rationale that you've come up with the most ridiculous things. And like,
I always explain it
later, and you think, why was I listening to that?
I always think of it as, if imagine a wall with a load of balloons blown up against and pinned to it, and as soon as they're all the rational thoughts, and then the irrational thoughts are little darts being thrown at it and popping all those balloons, and you just go, oh crap. and they're popping far faster than they could be blown back up again.
Very loudly.
You what, sorry?
Very loudly.
In your head as well. And so they're just like going, no, you can't do it. And it's like a constant conversation between the rational and non-rational side of your brain, and it gets so overwhelming, you just kind of want to shout, shut up! Like,
it's too noisy in there.
And then you realize, I'm screaming at myself, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. And that is that final bit of, there's something wrong with me. And then we're like, no, you are allowed to feel that way, you're allowed to have those feelings. But it's so hard to validate that, and you just think, there's something wrong with me, I'm not a valid member of society because I have these things going on in my head and I can't cope with, you know. And I feel the way I feel, and it's so difficult sometimes. And as I said, and I'm aware that stigma has massively gone down since, you know, back in the day when I was 14. When I was 14, when I was first diagnosed, I was like a leper. It was like, oh my God, you have something wrong with you. Oh, we can't be, you know. And I lost a lot of friends
back then. So when you were 14, like what year was that?
Oh God, no, yeah.
It would have been the early 2000s sort of mark, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? So I'm trying to think, because we're pretty much the same age. So back then, if you had a mental health condition, you needed putting in an asylum. That's how I thought about mental health. Like it was, you know,
it's why I just didn't tell
locked up in padded rooms and everything else. And so I think you're right. I think in the stigma in regards to mental health, like it's been normalized a little bit more that's like a real extreme.
Yeah, they have
actually not mental health doesn't generally look like that.
Yeah,
so
no, it has improved on that front.
When you talk about at work being embarrassed by your mental health and that, oh, they're just skiving off, you know, and that mental health day with the quote fingers, that is still stigma. Because that the fact that we still feel embarrassed to accept that a hidden illness, and this goes for hidden disabilities as well, and other hidden health conditions, that any kind of hidden illness or condition, people's first assumption is to not believe you.
Yeah.
And you are the person who's living and breathing it, and you feel embarrassed for that affecting you and your ability to do your job or whatever it is you need to be doing. But the people that are stigmatizing you for that don't feel any shame in the way that they treat you, even when you end up in a crisis and something goes very, very wrong.
I mean, I said it took a lot for me to, I was trying to show up every day. I was really struggling when I was nearing the breakdown. And as like you said earlier, you kind of know it's coming. It's like, you know, when you feel a storm coming, and even though it's sunny,
you feel it in the air.
Something, air gets heavier, whatever, and like, you know, your chest hurts a little bit more.
Yeah.
Your brain is just a little bit harder to function and understand things, and the brain fog starting to settle in. Things are starting to slow down, and you're kind of going, something's going to happen here, and then it just implodes.
Yeah,
the other way, and that's when it all just goes, and you just go, oh crap. And I basically tried to kill myself. I tried to overdose. Thankfully, I got caught before I could take enough for it to become a problem. But I had to go into I find it very difficult to talk about. And then, again, this is the problem, is sometimes it's so, you don't, not that I feel embarrassed about it, but it was just such a hard time in my life that I genuinely, I don't want to start crying because it just makes me so emotional. But yeah, I had to be taken in and assessed, and they thankfully found that I wasn't, what's the word? I wasn't sort of enough of a threat to myself to need to be taken in, thankfully. But I was under watch for a while. I think it was like 72 hours, I think, before I could be released, kind of thing. And then even then I was on severe tablets, which literally just made me feel like I was, as you said earlier, empty, lights on, no one's home. I don't remember. It's like, you know, when people sort of say that they have you know, they're in a coma and they don't remember anything that's happened during that sort of period of time. I'm the same. Someone goes to me, "Oh, what did you do?" I'm like, I don't know. It's a fog. It's literally a fog. And that's what it feels like. You're just walking through a fog and you don't know where you are, who you are, like what time of day it is. I mean, the only reason I kind of went to bed is because my other half literally was like, I mean, for the first couple of months, I couldn't even get out of bed. I became attached to my bed. And it was, the thought of just getting out was just like, no, I can't face it. I can't even just face going downstairs where, you know, there's a window where people could be seen outside. No, can't. That's just too much people. That's too much light for me. I can't cope with that. No, not happening. I'm just going to stay in bed, and I'm just going to, you know, and the black dog, unfortunately, was very much my constant companion for those couple of months. And it was very much a struggle to function at all. Eat, sleep. Well, sleep was just constant. The only reason I kind of continued to be fed was because my other half would make me eat. And I mean, I'm so grateful for my partner. He obviously doesn't struggle from mental health illnesses, but he's done his best to kind of understand them, to try and support me when he knows I'm struggling. Like if he's having a really bad day, but he knows that I'm having a worse day, he won't come and tell me about his, because he's like, I don't want to put that on you. You've got enough on your, you're dealing with enough as it is. I don't want to make things worse for you. And though sometimes I'm kind of like, if I'm having an okay day, I'm like, just tell me about your problems, because it makes me forget about mine for about 5 minutes. And some people are like that. They do find that actually focusing on other people and other things makes them forget about their own issues for a time. But then the problem is, as soon as they stop doing that, it crashes 10 times harder. And that's when, and I think that's the thing as well, as during COVID, I was basically trying to be everything for everyone in every way, shape or form. And that's another reason that I crashed. And it was just like, imagine sort of, a sandy beach, and you've got a small-ish structure on top, and things are just piling up and piling up and piling up. Eventually that sand structure is not stable enough. It's going to just, everything come crashing down. And that's how I felt. And it took me about 9 months, I think, before I was able to go back even to a class, let alone teach one. And going back to work, when I was doing sort of weekly check-ins with my boss, and he said, look, whenever you're ready, until you're ready, don't come. I hate taking the tablets that people take for depression and anxiety, because it doesn't work for me. It just makes me worse. And I know that sounds really strange.
No, it doesn't. Well, not to me anyway.
some people are like, yes, but medication makes you better. And like this, and everybody's different. I'm not saying that people are, taking away from those who are on medication and how much it helps them. But for me, it makes me feel worse. So when they had me on these tablets, I just felt like I was walking through a fog, and I was just like, this is not helping me. And so it was my friend Emily, actually, and her dog Marley. She was struggling to look after her dog because of various things, and she said, look, I know you're really struggling right now, but can I just bring Marley around, and just be in the room with you, kind of thing, so at least he's being looked after. Genuinely so grateful for that, because having him, it gave me something else to focus on for a while. And I'm like, and then it started to give me enough oomph to be able to get out and go for a small quick walk around the block with him, because I knew he needed to have a walk. And it was like, actually, it's not as scary as I thought out here. Okay, I can, small little things. And it started to build up and build up and build up. And then I was like, okay, I think I can. And eventually I started to get back into a bit more of a routine, to then start to phase back to work, to phase back to classes. And I'm forever grateful for Marley. He saved me in a way. And I've spent years doing various talking therapies, and they've never worked for me, because I sit in front of someone and they're like, so how do you feel? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, how do I answer that kind of question? And they'll try and get things out of you. And again, I'm not going against talking therapy, because I know it works for some people, but for me, it didn't. I'm an take action, do things kind of person. So when I was approached by a friend of mine who was training to be a life coach, I was like, well, that's a pile of crap. Genuinely, that's what I thought about life coaching.
I love how just so clear cut you are with your opinions on things.
I was like, it's just like a load of nonsense. But okay, if you want some help, I will, and then she wanted to do 10 sessions just to tick off a box on her thingy. I was like, okay, I think it's a pile of wishy-washy crap, but okay. Best thing I ever did. And I will, and Sarah, my life coach, laughs to this day about the fact that I used to slack off her career choice, and now it saved me, because it was talking therapy but taking action. So it felt like I had homework. I had to go and do things, and it was just something at the start. It was things as simple as, right, you have a massive laundry pile. Okay, I want you to deal with 10 pieces of clothing off that laundry pile. And just those small little things. And it's like, why did I never I'm just thinking, I'm going to attack the whole laundry pile. That's too much. I can't cope. Oh my God. And everything starts to escalate, and then you just never touch the laundry pile. I mean, it's like, my mom and my sister both have ADHD, and my mom on a regular basis likes to tell me, oh, I think you might have ADHD because, you have anxiety. And I'm like, Mom, anxiety isn't just a symptom of ADHD. It is its own mental health illness as well. And people who have anxiety and ADHD, they do cross over. I know I procrastinate a lot. But I'm also incredibly organized. When I'm on it, I'm on it. But there are times when I can pull back, and I know I haven't got ADHD, but I'm aware that they cross over. So for me, that laundry pile was just nah, can't cope with that.
Not happy.
But again, with life coaching, with Sarah going, right, okay, 10 pieces of clothing. And the following day, 10 pieces of clothing again. Maybe by the following week, can you do 20 pieces of clothing? And it was just like, yes, small little bite sizes of things. For someone who struggles with a mental health illness, if you focus too much on too much at the same time, it is overwhelming, and you just want to go, nope, done, I can't, not happening. Yeah. But if you're taking things slower, it does start to make a difference. But going back to the medicine situation, for me, I really struggled to take medication, and that's where fitness for me comes in, because fitness is my happy place. It's the one thing that I know I can do that will always make my mental health feel better. Because even if I'm in the worst place, if I go and do a fitness class, and it's not just the physical benefits, it's being around other people who lift me up. It's doing something that I truly enjoy. And it's very true when they say that, you know, if you find something you enjoy, exercise is not a chore. And it's not. I mean, I've tried doing HIIT, I've tried doing weights, I've tried doing all sorts of these things. Hated every second of it. But dance fitness is my happy place.
Yeah.
Genuinely, absolutely hate it. My other half used to do my PT way back in the day. And he gave up PTing me because he just was like, you're not enjoying this. Why are you doing it? I'm like, I don't know. Because I feel like I should. And again, there's all of this stuff that says you should do this, you should do that. But you don't have to. You do what makes you feel happy. And for me, dance fitness is that. I get to dance around, do musicals for 45 minutes and sing. And I can't sing, but it's fine. You know, no one cares. Although sometimes I think
that some fitness, like in the fitness instructor world, 90% of us all secretly wanted to go on the X Factor, but actually can't sing.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be a singer on the West End. That was always my dream. Can't dance, can't act, and I can't sing. So that career is kind of.
I don't agree with the can't dance. I haven't seen your acting and I haven't heard you singing, but you can definitely dance, Jenny.
I can dance fitnessy, but I'm not sure about the other side of it. I tried to do like dancing.
Like I say to people that are joining Decade Reloaded for the first time, always say to them, look, everybody can dance. If you're moving to the music, just some people do it differently to others.
I love that. And my motto for JH Fitness is always, as long as you're moving with a smile on your face, it does not matter what direction you're going. If you're going up, down, left, right, I don't mind. And I always say, there's no mistakes, just accidental solos.
Absolutely. We quite often have spontaneous classes. We have choreography, which we had this week.
And I always say, like, if the instructor will go wrong, so it's okay for you to do so.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I go wrong, I'm like, just go with me, guys. It's fine. Or I'm testing you. You just make it a bit of a, especially when my other instructor Danielle, like, oh, she's amazing. I swear she's like Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way. But
that's lovely.
But genuinely, I love her classes because she's such a fun, outgoing individual, and her classes are just so much fun. But she's just so good at what she does, and I'm just like, I can't make my body move like that, but it's fine because as long as it's moving, it doesn't matter. Exactly. And that's what I tell my guys, because some of them are just like, oh, she's so good. Like, I don't look like that. I'm like, me neither, but it's fine. Just dance anyway. It's all good. Exactly. And you know, and some people come to me and they're a bit like, because for those who don't know, for my business, it was actually created to support mental health. It wasn't a lot of fitness brands, fitness companies, they are very focused on weight loss, toning, that kind of thing. That doesn't even factor in. I mean, I
really mature sound choices then, but yeah.
You were?
I said, excuse my really immature sound choices then, but yeah. Not
and I said, I mean,
weight loss.
Because obviously I put on weight during COVID, and then when I had the breakdown, I didn't move for 9 months. I put on even more. I mean, I will admit I'm about 19 stone right now. I don't fully always look it because I'm quite tall, but that's a lot of weight. And if I went to any other kind of fitness class, I would feel so self-conscious. But we're not that kind of person. It doesn't matter what you look like in my class. You could be the biggest person on the planet. As long as you're there to smile and have fun and enjoy, and you're not, you know, going to be, excuse my French, an asshole to everybody else, then you're more than welcome in my class, you know. And if your goal is weight loss, that's fine too. But that's not what we're based at. And I have actually had several people, you the kind of spam emails you get as a business owner going, I think you could do this to improve your SEO. I think you could do this. And like the amount of times I get going, I think you should change your copy because you might, if you do this, you get a better. And I'm like, but that's not my business. Yeah, but on your life to lose weight? No, I'm not actually. Yeah, but if you did, you could do that. No, that's not what I'm about. And yes, I could change my copy. I could change my business model, but then it wouldn't be JH Fitness.
No.
It wouldn't be what I set out to create 5 years ago. So why would I? And I get trolls on the Instagram and Facebook who kind of go, oh, you're a really bad example. You're overweight. You shouldn't be teaching fitness. And I'm just like, well, why not? I have a body. It can move.
Absolutely.
Does it matter what it looks like? No. And
so I should put you in touch with a lady called Becky. She's an instructor who you may have even started following her on social media from Misfits. She teaches locally, but she teaches classes for everybody.
Yeah.
And she is very heavily campaigning against safe exercise spaces for people with larger bodies. You will find her fascinating. You will really enjoy the stuff that she shares about, I think, especially when you've been subject to trolling from people about running your fitness business, because she experiences that on a daily basis as well. She's actually doing a session at Fern Cotton's Happy Festival.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Happy Festival. She's doing she does a few things. Amila Jamil that used to be on Channel 4. She's done a couple of sessions at some stuff that she's been doing as well, promoting body positivity and well-being with exercise and stuff. So I'll put the details actually under this as well, and I'll pass them on to you too, because she's a fantastic person to follow. And I think it's amazing that your business is focused more around mental health, because there is so much stigma around weight and how people look or how people perceive people should look in the world of fitness, and it just shouldn't be there. There's just, in 2024, there is just no place for it. Absolutely fuel your body with good nutrition and take care of your body from the inside and out, because actually good nutrition will support better mental health. But don't do it because you're on a goal to just look a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, it was very prevalent for me at FitJam, the fitness weekend in January, because looking around all of the other presenters, everyone really slim, fit, and then there's me, 19 stone, galumping around a teeny tiny stage with my pom-poms. But I'm like, you know what? I'm having the time of my life. The fact I was honoured that, Jenna and Matrick from Pom Squad even asked me to do it, because, sometimes...
Quite rightly so as well. You deserve that.
I mean, I loved every second of that, and it was so much fun to do that. And I was so honoured that they were like, I remember saying to Jenna, are you sure? Because, I mean, have you seen me? kind of thing. And she was like, well, why not? You're amazing at what you do. And, and like, because I said, I feature as a choreographer for them as well. And
yes,
I'm on screens across the country, across the world, because they're an American brand. And it took me a few minutes to kind of looking around going, well, does it matter that I don't look like them? People are still going to come to class, and if they don't enjoy it, that's not based on what I look like, it's whether or not they enjoy the class. And if it is based on what they look like, they're not the kind of people we want doing Pom Squad anyway, because then they shouldn't really be in the fitness industry, because the whole point of the fitness industry is to promote health and fitness and feeling good and all those kind of things. And yes, okay, weight loss and toning, it's fine, but promoting what society thinks is good, nah. And look at Marilyn Monroe. She had belly rolls. She was a bit fat, not like hugely, and she didn't always look her best all the time, but she was a pinup. So, having curves, I guess, yes, being overweight is not the best from a health point of view. And I'm fully aware that there's, I need to lose some weight for that purpose, and I'm trying to. The problem with having mental health illnesses is how you cope with them. And I like to comfort eat when I'm stressed, when I'm depressed. When my depression is seriously on a roll, or my anxiety, I just go chocolate, and I will eat my entire weight in chocolate orange or ice cream.
I was just about to say, what's your favourite chocolate, Jenny?
Oh, I do love chocolate orange. I'm very partial to a chocolate orange. Yeah, or I do like a Bounty as well.
A Bounty.
But my other sort of weakness is Ben and Jerry's.
Yes.
I do. I am partial to Ben and Jerry's.
Is it one of the obscure flavours or just a
fish food? Fish food all the way.
Of course. I mean, you like chocolate orange and bounty, so of course it's fish food as well.
It's chocolate. If it's chocolate, then. And like, I have been known at times when things have been very bad to eat an entire tub and then feel incredibly guilty and sick afterwards. But it's how I've always dealt with things, is I eat my feelings, and it's a very true thing. And it's taken me a long time to come to terms with the fact that, yes, from a health point of view, that's not great, but from a mental health point of view, it happened. Okay, is it the end of the world? No. So it's okay.
Sometimes you just got to eat the stuff that you want. Exactly.
And and people made to feel guilty about all these kind of things, and it's like, well, you don't know what someone's dealing with. And I said, my favorite 2 words are be kind, always. You don't know what's going on in someone's head. You don't know how people are handling things, what's going on. They may not even have a mental health illness, but they are dealing with a lot of things, and they are struggling. And so, saying that nasty comment, saying to someone, oh, they could do with some losing some weight, or it's not going to help. No. And so why would you do it? No. And it's difficult. And I understand for people who don't suffer from mental health illnesses that, you can just sort of go, oh, you'll be okay. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. And it's like, well, sometimes that tunnel feels really long. So where's the light? Because I ain't seeing it. I'd like to see it, but I ain't seeing it. And like, I get the whole it's okay not to be okay thing, but at times
it's really not okay feeling not okay though.
Yeah, sometimes it's really not okay. So don't say that kind of thing. But I think it's because, again, we've been kind of programmed to say certain words, certain things to kind of,
and it's that right intention, not necessarily the right execution again.
Exactly. And I think this
say things with the right meaning behind it, but for someone who's living and breathing in it, they might not feel that way about what you're suggesting.
Yeah, like you're saying, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm like, where? Because I ain't seeing it. I've been going down this tunnel for 20 years.
Tunnel's basically caved in.
Yeah, the tunnel caved in, and I'm still sitting under the rubble right now. So if there's any light, I ain't seen it yet. So can you tell me where I might see it? Because it'd be nice to know. Yeah, and I understand, again, right intentions, wrong execution, and it's also the people that, I think the one thing that annoys me the most is for those who don't suffer, who go, my anxiety is so bad, and I'm like, no, you don't have anxiety. Believe me, if you did, you would know about it. And it's like, I don't want to poo-poo anyone's feelings, but I don't like when people use terminology and referring on things that they don't actually suffer from, because if they did, they would. And I think that's the thing as well. Again, everyone thinks if you've got depression and anxiety, you're going to be like shouting from the rooftops about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's anxiety, and then there's an anxiety condition. There's feeling depressed, and then there's having a depressive-based condition. They're not the same thing. So then these words have completely blurred and crossed over, and because of the world of social media, the people who are feeling anxious or having a patch where they feel depressed feel like they're experiencing an anxiety disorder or a depressive disorder.
Yeah, but it's not the same thing. And
there's still a difference. But do you think GPs are partly responsible for that confusion, because they're very quick to diagnose anxiety and now, rather than hand out?
They hand medicine out like it's candy, and that's an American term, but the fact that I only had to answer 2 questions, and they were all like, here's medication, and it was like, okay,
And unfortunately, when medication makes you feel worse with a mental health condition, it's actually usually because it's the wrong type. It's changing.
Yeah,
it doesn't get followed up.
And I mean, my GPs unfortunately were fairly useless. It was a nurse practitioner that I saw after my breakdown who really did help me. Like my life coach, she kind of made me see things in a different way, something that I hadn't seen in the entire 20 odd years that I'd had mental health issues. And for one, and again, it was a really simple phrase that he said, and it was just like, oh yeah, like ding, 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 like light bulb. But he just went, medication is a sticking plaster. You need to find the root of the problem.
Absolutely.
And I was just like, why have I never thought about that before? He was like, and he said all the thing, and I was like, yeah, but I don't like taking medication. He went, okay, your fitness, that is a sticking plaster. You need to find the root of the problem. And I was like, yeah, but how do I do that? And he went, you may never do that, but you got to try. and that's what you need to do. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good
It's,
point. And I
it's
have,
interesting that he called fitness a sticking plaster for you, because for me, lack of dancing was one of the biggest contributors to what was going on with me. Is dance is my emotional outlet, because I'm not very good at releasing my emotions like yourself. I don't really like crying. It makes me feel really rubbish. I get a really bad headache, my eyes hurt, my face looks a mess, my nose is bunged up, and it'll go on, and then it'll ruin my evening's classes because I feel lousy, like I've been punched in the face and I've got 10 rounds of flu with COVID on top. And so I tend to try not to cry. And if you don't cry, you get angry. But then I can't just go around shouting at everyone, because that's not very productive. So for me, it's either completely internalize it and try and suppress it, or I dance and I let it out. And I spent years of my life not dancing because of my health condition I've got. And I needed to get back dancing, really.
Yeah.
And that was fundamentally the biggest problem for me, was not having an emotional outlet. So it's really interesting. Like, you've got, I mean, I don't think what the reasons are, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't think he meant it as like, you know, fitness is bad. I think it was more of, you know, you're using fitness to kind of help as your outlet, but why, you need to find out the reason why you were in, and, you know, why do you feel that way in to begin with, kind of thing. And I think he was kind of trying to encourage me to just dig a little deeper, because I think I've always had these mental health illnesses, so I've been like, okay, we'll just deal with it. It's there. But it's like, well, what are the reasons? And I think what he was trying to encourage me to do was understand a bit more, so that I could recognize when these things are coming, so that I could then deal with them appropriately. And honestly, I have, and it's made such a difference in the last 4 years since the breakdown, well, almost 4 years. It's made such a difference. I've noticed when things are getting, you know, like we were talking about the thundercloud earlier, when you can feel it coming, but you're like, oh, you know, and I recognize where that's happening, and I'll go in on myself and go, okay, you need some alone time here, or you need to go and dance, or you need to go and talk to someone, or whatever it is at that time that I need, that whatever it is I need at that time, I will go and do it. And it has made a world of difference. I mean, I've been struggling with my classes for a while now. I have numbers have dropped, and, you know, things, the cost of living and illness, injuries, various things, you know, again, with my imposter syndrome kicks in. But then I have to take a step back and just go, okay, so what are all these things? You know, they've told you they can't come because of illness. Is that you? No, that's them. That's not their fault, but it's still them, not you. And I have to look at these things. And and I'm aware that people follow instructors rather than businesses. And I've been told, you know, when Danielle, my instructor, she's been recovering from surgery, and a couple of people said, we'll come back when she does. Fair dues, I understand. Took me a minute to kind of go, okay, they don't like me. But then it was like, no, they don't like me. They just prefer her. And that's
it's what they're used to. And that is a mental health thing in its sense. So when we talk about anxiety, the instructor is one of the barriers to participating in physical activity, or who you're going to come across in that environment. And come like putting on your favorite pair of slippers. And if somebody swipes your slippers and gives you a pair of stilettos to wear instead, you're immediately out of your comfort zone. And then you've got to navigate not falling over and trying to, it's like learning how to walk again. But now you've got a 4-inch heel underneath you instead of nice, cushy shock absorbers. So, or slippers. And it's, so for some people, it's just, they don't feel comfortable having to relearn how to do their class with a different instructor. And it's something really hard to wrap our heads around, but when we do, it makes it so much easier to rationalize. But I just wanted to ask you, so I was really interested in you saying you got diagnosed at 14, and you're just saying about root causes. What was it when you were 14 that made you realize that something wasn't quite right to then go ahead and seek a diagnosis?
So this is the thing, I still to this day don't know exactly what it was. And I just knew something wasn't, it's like, you know, that inherent feeling you get, you just feel something isn't right. And I mean, I thought maybe it's because of my sexuality at the time, actually, because I had a major crush on one of my dance teachers. Looking back, I realized it was just more her energy I was attracted to, and I just genuinely really admired her. but I genuinely thought, oh crap, am I a lesbian? And at 14, that is something terrifying to think about. And like, you know, I thought if I mentioned to my friends, oh my god, they're going to think something wrong with me. And I kept thinking about it, and I was spiraling, and I was like, something's not right here. And my mum noticed that things weren't quite right, and then I just was in such a bad place in general because I'd lost some of my friends because they'd gone off to be friends with someone else. And at 14, that's the end of the world.
14-year-olds do, yeah.
Yeah, that's the end of the world. If someone, you know, your friend needs you to go off with somebody else, God forbid. And there was just so many other factors that kept building up, and to the point that I tried to overdose again. I'd written, but the thing is, I knew it wasn't a proper overdose, if that makes sense. And the reason I can explain that in a minute was because obviously, if, you know, for those who mostly know with depression and anxiety, if you're going to kill yourself, you're not going to tell anyone about it. You're just going to do it. It again, movies, TV, media, it's all kind of come out of it's a cry for help. You know, if you do that, you're trying to cry for help, and you're like, no, you just want to be done with it. You just want to end it because life is just too hard, and you just want to just be done. So telling anybody, well, they're going to try and stop you. So you're not going to tell anyone. So because when I was 14, I wrote out a load of like suicide letters. So clearly I was trying to get help, and I don't think I actually genuinely really wanted to kill myself. I laid all my tablets out, and then my sister walked in and saw what was happening, and she was just like, whoa, shit. Excuse my friend, I probably shouldn't swear on a podcast.
That's right. I'll put an explicit tag for this one.
Yeah, sometimes I forget I'm swearing. And she got my mom.
I've had on. You're not the first to swear on this podcast.
Oh, good. I clearly missed that part. And I panicked. She panicked. She got my mom. My mom came up and she was like, yeah, I've noticed things weren't right with you for a while. You know, would you go and see a doctor? And I was like, no. You know, again, when you're 14, that's like, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. I'm, you know, like, well, you just tried to kill yourself. So clearly you're not fine. And eventually she got me down there, and the GPs were kind of like, well, we don't think there's anything wrong with you. We think, you know, you're probably just you're going through a phase. That was the word I got used. You're going through a phase.
Wow.
That was what the first two GPs both said. And then she took me to see a therapist. And it was a therapist that said, I think you might be suffering. I went and did a load of questionnaires. I had an interview. They asked me a load of questions. I can't remember. I'm sure there was something else, but I can't remember. It was that long ago. And basically they said, look, you know, take this back to your doctors. And they did. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we think you've got depression and anxiety. Right. And that is what? Because I didn't understand what that was at 14. It was like, it's a mental health illness. Right, so am I going into a hospital then? And they were like, no, we're never going to put you into a hospital.
That must be quite scary when you don't know, because we didn't know so much about mental health then. And like we covered earlier on, like there was this bigger stigma about like what mental health actually means. That must have been really petrifying to be told that you've got a mental health condition, and you must just think, oh my God, I'm going to get locked away from my family. Everyone's going to think I'm balmy.
Well, I thought, because back then there wasn't much about it, and all you saw was in movies where you get locked up in a madhouse. That's what I thought was going to happen to me. I was like, oh, you're going to take me away and put me in a straitjacket, and I don't know what the word straitjacket was back then, but in one of those white coats, and oh my God, am I going to, you know, I was petrified. And they were like, no, we'll just sort of manage it and see how you go. And I was like, okay. And nothing really changed. And so I went back to the therapist, and I was talking to them for quite a while. They were like, have you considered taking medication? Well, what's medication going to do? I'm not ill. They're like, well, you are in your head. And I was like, huh? And I really didn't understand what, like, I was like, to me, you know, I was trying to see it as a physical illness, and it wasn't. But again, there wasn't any of the really explanations, understanding back then. So it was like, okay, so I'm not going into a nut house, and there's nothing physically wrong with me, so why would I need medication that I don't understand? And then she tried to understand, explain to me, again, I was only, I think, about 15 at this point, and that year between the two of all this back and forth, not knowing what the hell was going on and how I was feeling, they were like, right, okay, so medication, it basically, when you have, and then she explained it all, you have hormones, you have areas and signals in your brain, things that aren't working. She went into a whole explanation about it, and she says the tablets will help kind of control your brain a little bit. And I was like, control my brain. Like I didn't really understand what she kind of meant. And
Yeah.
obviously now, like I would understand it kind of it's the way it controls the hormones and this and the other, and it's the way it kind of helps you manage your symptoms as such. But again, back then I thought, well, I'm not physically ill, so why? I didn't get it. But I went on them, and for a while they did help. But then I think my body either got used to them or something happened. I don't know. They just stopped working. And then that's when the fog started to set in. And that terrified me. Again, 15, 16 years old, and you just like can't function and you don't want to get out of bed. And also you're feeling foggy and slow. And it's just like, what's going on with me? I don't understand. And went back to
that's really important
again.
as well, because teenagers at that age, especially leading up to what you would have been as well, like their major exams for the end of their school career. And a lot of 14 to 16-year-olds will potentially feel like that right now, but as a result of their hormones, not necessarily a mental health condition. So to decipher between the two back at a time where there wasn't really much talk about depression and anxiety.
Yeah. And like the thing is, no one knew I had, I think I was about 17 or 18 when I first really told other people other than like my close circle of friends that I had a mental health illness, because you were looked down upon back then. You were just like there's something wrong with you, like you had the plague or something. It was like, oh, she's got something wrong with her. That's kind of how you were kind of dealt with, and or you belong in a madhouse. I got quite a lot of that, even at sort of 17. Like, oh, you belong in a madhouse if you got that lot. And then as I got into my mid-20s, that's when they started to really kind of more look into mental health and understand it. Because again, most people saw anxiety of, you're just rocking like that. And if it's depression, you just sleep all day. That was the only thing they really understood about the two things that we deal with. And, and then they started to kind of understand there's like the social anxiety. There's different types of anxiety. There's different types of depression. There's different types of mental health illnesses in general. There's not something wrong with you. It's just the way your brain is wired. It's the way you are, and that and that's understandable. My mum understood a lot of what I was going through because she suffered from depression. She doesn't have anxiety particularly. She gets anxious, but I don't think she's ever fully suffered from anxiety the way I do. But she's had depression a long time, so she recognised that bit pretty much straight away. I mean, she apologised and said I didn't see it leading up to the whole cry for help situation. But like when I had the breakdown, the second one, she said I knew something wasn't quite right, but I just didn't know the best way to approach you because I didn't want to like upset you. And I was like, if you saw that I was heading for a breakdown, I wish you'd said something.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, because
and that's important, isn't it? If you think somebody is heading into a mental health crisis or you think somebody is suicidal, you might not have the confidence to ask them about it, but actually asking, even with the wrong words, just saying, look, is your mental health suffering right now? Do you need some additional support? Are you having suicidal thoughts? Is so important to just ask anyway, because most people will not be offended by you asking, but you not asking could be devastating.
Especially as if they haven't recognised it in themselves, but you saying something could kind of go, oh yeah. I do wonder, because I've been kind of heading back that way, not fully heading to the breakdown, thank goodness, but I've been in a very dark place the last few months, because I mean I was in hospital in March, and it's just kind of been a crap show the majority of this year so far. But my other half recognised when things are going, my mum has, my friends have, they've all recognised when I'm going towards a bad place, and they'll kind of like, oh, let's go out for dinner, let's go and do something, and they'll just find ways to kind of like pick me up a little bit and help me, give me the opportunity to talk about what is going on, and sort of go, okay. And I think it was Danielle, I sort of messaged her and I was like, I don't know what to do about the business, and she was like, okay, let's go for coffee. And we just sat down and had coffee, and we wrote out a list, and we wrote out things that could work. And I mean, granted, not all of them have worked, but it kind of saved me from spiraling, because I was trying to deal with it on my own. And I think that's the thing, those who suffer from mental health illnesses is they don't want to burden other people, so they do deal with it on their own, and they do spiral. And it's like, yes,
it's very important actually to ask, isn't it? Because we won't tell you. So if you don't
sometimes
ask,
we don't want to tell you, but if you start the conversation, we will respond. Most people will respond back, and then you open that line of communication, because as I said, you don't want to feel burdened. Like my mom, bless her, I love her to death, but she can talk for England. She doesn't really have anyone. She's genuinely good. She doesn't really have anyone who wants to just spend that time just listening to her. She doesn't necessarily want you to talk back to her. She just wants to talk at you. And there will be times when I'm like, she'll ring me, and I'm working or I'm doing something, and I'll just put her there and let her just talk at me. Reply if she asks me a question, I'll reply. But for the most part, she just wants to talk to someone and just get it out of her chest. And that's what a lot of people with mental health illnesses want to do too, but they don't want to start the conversation because they feel like they're burdening you. And I think that's why it's so important to talk to, start conversations with people who are struggling with mental health, because they may not always appreciate it, but it doesn't mean they don't need it.
And they might not always be honest right away either.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
If you're still concerned, keep asking, because even if they get annoyed with you, if you're genuinely concerned about somebody's mental well-being, you think they're really struggling, and that's whether or not they have a mental health condition or whether or not their mental health has just taken a nosedive. Not just, but you know what I mean. Keep asking, because at some point they might feel ready to tell you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my friend Leah, she doesn't suffer from mental health illnesses, but she's had a lot going on, and she's been seriously stressed out, seriously struggling with her mental health in general. But she's not got, and I've been sort of going, Leah, how are things? Are you okay? What's going on? And she didn't really go and respond for a while, and then suddenly I just got a multitude of voice notes. And she would, I just feel so much better for getting all of that out. Thank you. And it took me 6 weeks to get that out of her, because she just didn't want to burden me as well. And then because she knows I struggle, but I'm like, and this is what I was going back to way earlier, that sometimes I like to know what's going on with other people, because it takes me away from mine for a bit. I've got enough going on in my head. Sometimes it's just nice to just quiet those voices for a little bit and listen to someone else's issues. And especially if I can come up with a solution to help them, it kind of makes then my internal little me go, yay, and it then improves my mental health as well. But that's not always the case. I'm not saying that isn't, and sometimes I think everyone has different outlets to help with their mental health. Sometimes it's talking, sometimes it's fitness, sometimes it's things they shouldn't be doing, like eating an entire tub of Ben& Jerry's. But we all have to do what we need to do in the moment to make us feel better.
We do, and I think that's a great place to wrap this up, Jenny. This has been an exceptional conversation. I think I don't like to say proud of people for talking about their mental health, because it's not like an honor badge to be able to say I've been in mental health. But I'm very grateful to you for sharing your own personal experiences with people listening, because you very, very easily could have saved a life today. And whether people feel like they have someone around them they can openly talk to, or whether or not they want to comment on here or reach out, somebody out there is ready to listen. And if you care about somebody who's struggling with their mental health, like we've just said, keep asking the question, because at some point they might just tell you. And if you are struggling right now and you think that the people around you don't want to listen and that you're a burden to them, I promise you, you won't be. And there are plenty of people out there that do want to listen to you. And if it is not the people immediately close to you that you want to talk to, and you are struggling at a young age, we have Young Minds now, which I was trying to check whilst we were talking actually about what year they actually started, because I don't think Young Minds was actually around in the early 2000s. I will double check that information. But like those kind of resources weren't there when you first found out about your anxiety and depression. But now we do have those resources. So people can reach out to Young Minds. You can reach out to your local Mind charity or the larger Mind charities. We have the Samaritans, we have Text Shout. There are lots of places to reach out and speak to somebody. The Samaritans is a great place to go if you want to talk. And there is a lot of local incentives through the NHS as well for online talking therapy, whether that be small group, one-to-one, over text, over video conference, or in person. So there is help out there. So there is always somebody to talk to, and we are always here to listen as well. And being able to listen about, sometimes you hit the nail on the head, sometimes we want you to tell us what's going on with you too, because just because we're struggling, actually being able to be there for you and support you can help us too. So don't ever think that somebody else's problems are greater than yours and that they've got too much on their plate.
Yeah, and like you're saying about the talking therapies, and just because one thing is doesn't work for you, keep trying. There's CBT, there's life coaching, there's all sorts of different ways out there. One thing will work for you, and when you find that, it will make a world of difference. And I've always said with JH Fitness, I'm not just a fitness company. Reach out. I'm also a support network as well. My crew, I have people on Instagram who randomly reach out to me sometimes because they know that what I do, and they have nothing to do with fitness. They just want someone who understands, who wants to talk to. So I'm always on the other end of it. I'm permanently attached to my phone, pretty much. So, if you need to reach out, and I do hope that this has helped other people to open up about their experiences, and to but I don't think we'll ever fully end the stigma, at least not for a long, long time. It is one of those things because it's a hidden, and as I said, it's not just mental health, hidden disabilities as well. It is unfortunate that the society we live in likes to be certain ways, certain things, but there are people out there who want to support you, so reach out to them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jenny. You've made a massive difference to lots of people today. I know that already. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk about it, and just, I love talking about everything mental health, to be honest. It's very important to me. So.
It's the best conversation to have. The more we share, the more we care. Thanks, Jenny.
Bye. Take care. Bye.